We can go ahead and begin, inshallah. I would like to wrap this up by midnight, so 45 minutes at most. Spoiler alert, we're not going to finish all of Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu anhu, obviously. We're going to try to get to the Caliphate. Okay, so from start, from birth, who he was, his background, pre-Islam, his reversion when he becomes Muslim, what happens there, his contributions in the battles, his contribution in Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, the Hudaybiyah Treaty, his involvement with the Khilafah with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, his contributions with the Prophet ﷺ, his family, and then we'll probably pause there, and then we'll pick up the next live either tomorrow or the day after, inshallah, going forward with his caliphate when he becomes the Khalifa, and what happens there with the battles, with the Byzantine Empire and with the Roman Empire. Sorry, the Byzantine Empire and the Persian Empire, the Romans and the Persians, and then we continue all the way to the end until we get to his martyrdom, because he died a shaheed, as we all know. But anyways, without further ado, I suppose we can go ahead and begin, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma yassir li amri wa shrah li sadri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. So we've wrapped up, just to recap, we've wrapped up Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, the first of the 10 who were promised Jannah, and he was the first Khalifa. He was the closest companion to the Prophet ﷺ, and he was friends with him from a very young age, even pre-Islam, and he was a Siddiq, the one who trusted and believed in the Prophet ﷺ without any doubt. And we went through his contributions, his achievements, what he did pre-Islam, during Islam, and then post Muhammad ﷺ's death, his caliphate, and his initiation of the expansion of the Muslim Empire, right through the Byzantine and the Persian battles that started to take place. His caliphate lasted 2 years and 3 months, 27 months in total. It was short-lived, but the achievements were profound, to say the least. After he dies, radiallahu anhu, he passes the torch on to Umar Ibn al-Khattab. So, and that's the topic of today. Who is this great man? I mean, most of us know him. We know a lot about him. He's kind of, for the most part, he's everybody's favorite out of all the sahabah, because of his character, because of his zero-nonsense tolerance. He was known as Al-Faruq, and we'll talk about his title as well and why it was given to him. And his demeanor, his stature, his position, his status in society pre-Islam and post-Islam, and the specific dua that Rasulullah made for Umar ibn al-Khattab. So we say Bismillah. Umar ibn al-Khattab was the second Caliph, as we all know, and his title was Al-Faruq. Al-Faruq comes from the word faraqa, or tufarriq, or faraq. The original root word is 3 letters, so it's faraq, which means to differentiate or to distinguish. And he was given that title by the Prophet ﷺ because of his strong keenness on distinguishing truth from falsehood. As we always say in this live and in Telegram and so forth, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ahu wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabahu. Allah, show us truth as truth and grant us the ability to pursue it, and show us falsehood as falsehood and grant us the ability to reject it. He was that knife that split between truth and falsehood. There was no gray for him. You're either with the good guys or you're with the bad guys. It's not overly complicated, and he was a strong spokesman for justice, and that's an understatement, right? So Umar ibn al-Khattab was born in 583 CE in Mecca, roughly 10 years after Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Interestingly enough, he dies roughly 10 years after the death of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, because his khilafah lasts 10 years. He was born Umar ibn al-Khattab ibn Nufayl ibn Abd al-Uzza al-Qurashi al-Adwi. That's his full name. So his father, Al-Khattab ibn Nufayl, belongs to the tribe Al-Adi, from the Qurayshi clan. And Umar ibn al-Khattab, from this Adi clan, was... Remember how we talked about this in the last live about Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and his tribal lineage? That he was an official, original, patriotic Qurayshi. Patriotic not in a negative sense, but he was the original from the founding fathers. Umar ibn al-Khattab is along the same lines, because there's different tribes that came together, the chiefs of the different clans, and they formed Quraysh. And so each one had their own representative. And there was the noblemen in the top tier society, the elites, and their fathers were of that status. And then there was, the second grade and the third grade, and then the rest of the normal citizens and so forth, all the way down to slaves at that time. And so Umar ibn Khattab comes from a lineage that was one of the founding fathers of Quraysh. So he's very well respected because of his father's status, because of his lineage, and because of his position. So he's born into that. His title was Al-Faruq, the one who distinguishes truth from falsehood, and the Prophet ﷺ gave him this title because of his strong sense of justice and commitment to defending Islam. His father, Al-Khattab ibn Nufayl, was from the Bani Adi clan, and he was also known for his strong leadership, his decisiveness, his sense of justice, and so forth. He was very well respected in Quraysh. So you have, when we're talking about these guys, these sahabah, their fathers were very pivotal people in society. They come from families that are very well respected. It's like, don't mess with Umar ibn Khattab's dad. Don't mess with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's dad. These are big guys, right? They're like the ministers, you could say, of the tribe. And so his father is one of those respected elders, so therefore he gets the position. But his father, there's no report that he became Muslim. So his father seemingly has died in disbelief. He died as a disbeliever, as a kafir. His mother, Hantama bint Hisham, her father was Hisham ibn al-Mughira, and she comes from the clan that is the same as Abu Jahl. They are both from the same clan, and that was Banu Makhzum. And her father was also one of the respected nobles of Quraysh. So from both his parents, so from his father's side, he's a respected noble. From his mother's side, she comes from a family of respected nobles. So they're well off in society. And so he inherits this nobility, he inherits this status in society because of who his family is and because of his own character. This is pre-Islam. He was also a person who was, so in a physical description, he was very tall. He was very muscular, he was very big, he was very well built. People by default would freak out if they saw him. And this plays quite heavily in his favor in the battles, as a psychological warfare. And you go into battle, you see Umar ibn Khattab, it's pretty much a done deal, you're going to lose. It's a scary thing to see Umar ibn Khattab on the battlefield. He's a giant, very well built. Linguistically, he was very articulate. He was a big fan of poetry and history, and he also liked to study genealogy, like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So he was very well into this, and this was an Arabic culture, to know poetry, to be able to speak in such an elegant and eloquent manner, and he was one of those, to the point that Quraysh had actually appointed him as ambassador of Quraysh when there was any talks with neighboring tribes for anything, any peace negotiations, any discussions, any hostage situations, anything like that. Umar ibn Khattab was the guy, because he was very well spoken. He was very, very well spoken. Like, this was a guy who knew how to talk. He had a silver tongue, I think, as the saying would go in English. He knew how to talk. He knew how to control. He knew how to command an audience. He demanded respect just by his presence, his demeanor. He was a very strong-built man. This is pre-Islam, so you can imagine with Islam on his side what this man does, right? He had a brother called Zayd ibn al-Khattab. Zayd ibn al-Khattab was his older brother who accepts Islam before Umar. And he becomes a strong defender of Islam. Zayd ibn al-Khattab dies years later. I'm going to skip a few bits just to jump back and forth, and that's how we're going to try to do this, inshallah. Remember how we talked about in the story of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, there was the Battle of Yamama. After the Rasulullah had passed away, there were certain clowns running around claiming prophethood. And the biggest one of them was Musaylim al-Khattab, Musaylim the liar. Musaylim the liar had amassed an army of 40,000 strong, ready to fight the Muslims. This was the Ridda Wars. His brother was part of the Muslim force that was sent out to go fight Musaylim al-Khattab, Musaylim the liar, the guy who claimed that he was prophet. And he amassed an army of 40,000. This battle takes place where? In Yamama. And remember, Abu Bakr appointed Khalid ibn al-Walid as the leader of that army to go and lead this fight against Musaylim al-Khattab, where they destroyed them. But until they destroyed them, the Muslims had suffered heavily. And if you recall, when we did the Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu seerah, in this specific incident, Khalid ibn al-Walid appoints, or he puts in the front line, the Huffaz of the Quran, those who had memorized the Quran, and he tells them that you guys are fighting for Islam itself. And this is a decisive battle. You guys are going in, this is one of those turning points in history. We better make it work. And a lot of the Huffaz were killed in that battle against Musaylim al-Kadhab, which is why Umar Ibn Khattab suggests after that battle to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu to have the Quran written down and compiled, to keep it as a book, because a lot of the Huffaz had died. Of those Huffaz who died in the battle of Yamama against Musaylim al-Kadhab is Umar ibn Khattab's brother Zayd. Clear? That's his brother. Becomes Muslim before Umar. Years later, after the Prophet's death, and Abu Bakr becomes the Caliph, he launches the war against Musaylama. He dies in that battle. That's Zayd. His sister, Fatima bint al-Khattab, was also one of the early Muslims, and you guys probably all know the story, right, of how Umar ibn Khattab becomes Muslim, which is what we're going to touch on in about right now. So Umar ibn Khattab was very passionate about the traditions of Quraysh. I mean, he's a very strong patriot. And their traditions were economic, their traditions were social, their traditions were religious, their traditions were political. All of that is now being threatened and challenged because of this new thing that's happening. There's a new trend in the market called Islam. And there's this new guy, Rasulullah, promoting this. And this is a threat to the way of life, to Quraysh. And Umar ibn Khattab, by his character, has a zero, in his eyes at that time, nonsense policy. Right? I'm not going to accept this. You are threatening everything that we know. This is what we found our fathers and our forefathers on. And you're telling us this is all not true? You're going to end the way we've held our religious beliefs for all these years. You're going to end our political status in the region. You're going to end our social status, our financial status. You're going to tell us that the noblemen can no longer be noblemen, that we cannot do X, Y, and Z, that we have to follow this new rule. We have to listen to you. He reaches a point after, and he also fought against the Muslims, by the way, and he caused a lot of harm to the Muslims. This is obviously pre-Islam. He reaches a point where he decides, I'm going to end this. Again, zero tolerance. He gets up, gets a sword. He's like, I'm going straight to Dar al-Arqam, which is where the Prophet ﷺ would stay with the Sahaba. And he's like, I'm going to go there and I'm going to kill the Prophet ﷺ. That's it. I'm just going to end it. And whatever comes of it, comes of it. I don't care. Let hell freeze over. Whatever happens, I'll deal with the consequences. Who's going to challenge me anyway? I'm big guy. I'm tough guy. I'm the strong guy. I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm just going to end this because I'm tired of this headache. On his way, he gets stopped by a man. He says, where are you going? He says, get out of my way. I'm going to go kill this Muhammad. He says, you're going to kill him? He says, I think you should go check with your sister first. He says, why? What's wrong with my sister? He said, just go check out on your sister. So he goes off to his sister's house, Fatima bint al-Khattab. And she's with her husband, Sa'id ibn Zayd, and they're in the house and they're reading Quran. He overhears, like he's sitting outside, he hears them reciting Quran, and they're with their teacher. He busts the door down. He's furious. He grabs his sister and he shouts at her. He screams at her, and eventually he hurts her to the point that she starts to bleed a little bit from her mouth. When he saw that, he backpedaled. Like he just saw that he caused his sister to bleed. Okay, I'm very angry, but clearly my anger has overtaken me. I've just hurt my own blood, my sister, and now she's bleeding on the floor crying. This is after him threatening her to leave this religion. What are you doing? You're getting brainwashed, you're getting scammed, etc., etc. And she's refusing. She's like, I will not backpedal on this. This is the truth. This is the haqq, and so forth. So after he hits her, it strikes a chord with him, and he's like, what did I just do? So he backpedals. He's like, hang on a second. I'm sorry. Wait, 1 second. What just happened? This escalated real fast. So he tells his sister, he's like, let me see this thing that you're reading, because you're so brainwashed, you're so plugged into this. What is it you're reading anyway? Let me just see this. He wants to pick up the few verses which is written on a scrap of paper, and she says, no, you can't touch that. لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. You have to be in a tahur state, in a pure state, to be able to touch the mushaf, right? So she's like, go do wudu. Fine. what is wudu? So he goes and he does wudu. He comes back, he picks up the pamphlet or the piece of paper, whatever it was written on. And it's the first few verses of Surah Taha. And I've written them down in English just so I can read the translation correctly. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم is what Umar Ibn Khattab is reading. You and I can read that. Like, you can read the verses that changed the heart of a man from, not from just rejecting. He has a sword in his hand. He's ready to go kill the Prophet ﷺ, to falling in love with the religion and becoming the second biggest defender of the religion after Abu Bakr, the second Caliph, the strongest person that we know. What a flip! What a change! It's like, imagine the season finale. Season 1, all Islam is being promoted. Abu Bakr becomes Muslim. All of that's going on, and people are starting to become Muslim everywhere. There's a lot of headaches. Quraysh is fighting. They're torturing the Muslims. They're torturing the slaves. And then Umar Ibn Khattab is like, "That's it. This is the last episode of season 1." He's like, "That's it. I'm going to go end this guy. I'm going to go finish it." He takes out his sword. He charges down the road, and then that's the cliffhanger. And like, "Whoa, what just happened? Well, hang on." So you get to the next episode. Season 2 comes in, right? And you're watching this. You're like, "All right, go." He's going to go there, and it's going to be awful. It's going to be violent. It's going to be disgusting. And you're waiting, and then he takes a detour. He goes to his sister's house. He's like, "Okay, fine, just deal with her quickly. Get back on track." And then it's like, "Well, hang on a second. What just happened? I don't understand." What a plot twist! Literally a plot twist like no other. And he starts reading from the surah. It says, "Taha, ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى." We have not revealed the Quran to you, O Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, to cause you distress. إلا تذكرة لمن يخشى, but as a reminder to those in awe of Allah. تنزيلا ممن خلق الأرض والسماوات العلى. It is a revelation from the one who created the earth and the high heavens. الرحمن على العرش استوى, the most compassionate who is established on the throne. له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وما بينهما وما تحت الثرى. To him belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth and whatever is in between and whatever is underground. Everything. Okay? وَإِن تَجْهَرْ بِالْقَوْلِ فَإِنَّهُ يَعْلَمُ السِّرَّ وَأَخْفَى. Whether you speak openly or not, he certainly knows what is secret and what is even more hidden. This is what's interesting. We all have secrets. That's a standard. Everybody has a secret. Some have dark pasts, some have good secrets, bad secrets. Everybody has something, right? Because we all live, and we all go through experiences, and sometimes we misjudge, sometimes we don't have the knowledge, sometimes we're ignorant, sometimes we fall, victim to shaitan's trickery, sometimes we fall victim to our nafs. Whatever the case is, we have secrets that we don't want people to know. It doesn't necessarily have to be under a negative light, but we all have secrets. And there are secrets that only you know, right? Nobody else knows, not your parent, not your spouse, not your child. Nobody else knows these secrets but you. What's more hidden than a secret that nobody in the universe knows? What is that? That's what's interesting, right? That's a good question. I mean, the thing that only you can know, that nobody else has access to this information, nor can they ever know, for example. Allah knows that secret, and then He knows what's beyond that secret. And that tafsir is something worth looking into. What is it that's even more hidden than a secret that only you know, for example? If that makes sense. There is something within us, and you don't know what you don't know. And I think the tafsir would need to be brought up. I don't have it here. But the tafsir would need to be brought up, and I would like to invite you guys to perhaps read through that. This is Surah Taha, verse number 7, and you can read through the tafsir and see what it's talking about. When it says, وَإِن تَجْهَرْ بِالْقَوْلِ فَإِنَّهُ يَعْلَمُ السِّرَّ وَأَخْفَى. And if you were to speak out, He knows the secret and He knows what's beneath it. Speaking out, obviously, that makes sense. You speak out, it's allowed, it's out there, everybody's heard it. Great, He knows that. Your secret, nobody knows it, only you, He knows that. Okay, and then He knows what's beyond that. Umar Ibn Khattab reads these and he starts to cry. Naturally, because even in another verse, Allah says that if He were to reveal this Quran on a mountain, you would see the mountain crush under the weight of the Quran. So what then would it do to the heart of a believer, a person who's seeking out truth, when you realize that this book is nothing short of absolute truth and mercy from the most merciful? when you read those verses, not necessarily Taha, any verse, sometimes they just hit you differently. And you've heard those verses before. But sometimes when you're just in the right mind frame and you listen to a verse, it's like you never heard it before. Similar to how we talked about the verse that was recited by Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu when the Rasul died. وما محمد إلا رسول قد أتى من قبله الرسل أفإن مات أو قتل انقلبتم على أعقابكم. That Muhammad was but a messenger, and many messengers and prophets had come before him. And so if he were to die or be killed, would you then fall back on your heels? I mean, turn away from Islam? And Umar ibn Khattab says, I sat in the Quran, I get hidden differently. And so we all have that experience, right? Every now and then you can open the book, especially when you're in a state of confusion or grief, and you're looking for guidance or comfort, and sometimes both. And you do wudu, and you decide, I'm just going to turn to Allah. I don't know what else to do. That's it. I'm just going to open the book, and whatever I read is going to talk to me. And sometimes it works that way, and you can't explain it. And it's like, I swear to God, those verses, it wasn't revealed to anybody else but me. It's like, how is that possible? Like, how is that verse that was revealed 1400 and so years ago talking about a situation that me, a nobody, is experiencing today? And because you're so humbled by that experience, you can't help but to cry. A tear rolls down. And it's like, because it crushes you in the most beautiful way. SubhanAllah. May Allah make us people of tadabbur. After he reads that, and he feels that sense, he rushes to Dar al-Arqam, where he was going to kill the Prophet ﷺ. Now, interestingly enough, the Prophet ﷺ had made a dua, and he says to Allah, and I'm paraphrasing it, he says, please guide one of the Umars. Allahumma ahdi ahad al-Umarayn. One of the Umars, for the sake of Islam. This would be so powerful. If we got one of those guys on our side, it would be a big deal. Because up until then, the majority of the believers, the majority, not all, but the majority, were of the quote-unquote lower status in society. You had slaves, you had people who were less fortunate, they didn't have as much money, they didn't have as much influence, normal citizens and so forth. So to get somebody of influence, that powerful, and that level of hiba, that level of presence in society, on your side is a very strong winning point for Islam, because it's like, we've got this guy now. Who've you got? I mean, you want to mess with us, you're going to have to mess with him. It's a big deal. So he makes a dua for one of the Umars. One of them is Umar ibn Khattab. Does anyone know who the second Umar is? It's open mic, by the way. If anybody knows who the second Umar is? Because there was two Umars. Umar ibn Khattab was one of them. Like either him or... Wow, tough crowd. Oh, come on, you gotta type it out. Nobody. Oh, I'm not going to tell you. He makes a dua for one of the Umars, and the dua is answered. That is Umar ibn Khattab. Homework: find out who the other Umar was. Umar ibn Khattab walks in, and he sees the Sahaba, and he sees the Rasul, and Hamza, the Prophet's uncle, correct. Hamza, the Prophet's uncle, was there, and he told the Prophet, he's like, let me strike him, let me kill him, let me tie him down, this is a threat. He's like, just leave him, it's fine. Umar ibn Khattab walks in, he sits on the floor, right in front of the Prophet, knee to knee, sits right there. He goes, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu annaka anta Muhammad abdullahi wa rasuluh. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that you, Muhammad is his messenger, are his messenger. And he becomes a Muslim. The Muslims go nuts. You can imagine. This is like, you've just got influencer of the century on your side, promoting your product, promoting the deen. SubhanAllah. So they're celebrating. They're going nuts. Now, Umar ibn Khattab, there is this narration. It's narrated in two instances. One is here, and one is at the Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, and I'm not sure which one is the more correct one. So we'll put it in both. But regardless, the idea stands. Because the Muslims were mainly in hiding, and they weren't going out publicly praying and publicly, performing acts of Islam and so forth, they were kind of being secretive about it, meeting up in secret groups and so forth. Umar ibn Khattab, he goes to the Rasul, he says, Alasna ala al-haqq ya Rasulullah? Are we not on the truth? I mean, aren't we on the path of righteousness and truth? The Rasul says, Bala. Yeah. What's the problem? He says, then why are we hiding? What's the problem? And let's see, who's going to challenge it? If we're on the truth and we're on the path of Allah, but why are we in hiding? You know, his idea is, come at me, bro. Like, who's going to talk to me? We are on the truth. And if you're on the truth, you have that level of confidence, Yani. This is also a lesson for us to kind of internalize. Because the truth that he's referring to is the truth that you and I have access to. It's no secret. It's the Quran, it's the Sunnah. It's understanding, internalizing, and appreciating that if you are on that right path, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, you have the King of all kings, the provider of all providers, the most merciful on your side. Who then can cause me any sort of distress or harm? Physically, mentally, psychologically, spiritually, financially, socially? It's not possible. It's not. You can't threaten me. You're a king and you want to threaten me? I've got the King of Kings on my side. You want to show mercy? If I do X, Y, and Z, if I abandon my religion, you will let me live, or you will give me more money, or you will reward me in a certain way. I've got the most merciful on my side. You want me to forego my religious beliefs and ethics and code of conduct to get a certain job that pays X, Y, and Z? You want to give me money to leave my religion. Where do you get your money from again? Oh, the Razaq. The Razaq's on my side. So, what are you doing here? You get me? When we can internalize that, Islam literally liberates you from the scam of the matrix, the scam of the system, of everything that it has. Because in the shaitan ya'iduhum al-faqr, the shaitan promises them poverty. If you follow the path of the shaitan, he promises you poverty. Now, you read that and you're like, well, he's not promising me poverty. He's telling me to go to the casinos and make money. He's telling me to rob a bank. He's telling me to sell a lie and I'll get rich. And to some extent, it's true. But then what kind of poverty are we talking about here? This is a very long tangent, so I won't go more into it. But the idea, and we can talk about it in another live, inshallah, but the idea here is that following the path of Allah, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, liberates you from the shackles of the scam that the world puts on you, or puts on us. Is that if you don't conform in a certain way, that oftentimes means to abandon your religious beliefs, so that you can get rewarded in the dunya, in whatever reward that is, in whatever way you want to measure it, whether it's financial or whether it's social, you get friends, or you get a fancy car, or you get a fancy whatever, a better job, or more income, or more status. If you abandon certain elements of your religion, then you will get this reward. And it's like, well, that's not how it actually works. That's a scam. But by falling into that scam, you then become prisoner to this scam, because now you need to constantly work on yourself to make sure that you meet the standard that is set out by people to manipulate you so they can continue to control you. I know this is a very, very far tangent from this, but in a way it relates to try to understand the character of Umar ibn Khattab, along with all the sahabah, obviously, but since we're talking about Umar specifically, the idea that what is there to be afraid of? It's not possible. It's not possible to be afraid. But they try to make you become afraid by allowing you, by manipulating your mind to accept a certain standard. And if that standard isn't met at whatever cost necessary, then you no longer are successful or happy or good or productive or whatever the case is, however they want to measure it, when all of that is not true. All of that is not true. When the adhan that we hear every day says, Hayya al-falah, come to success. Well, when I go to prayer, I'm not sitting there with a high position. I'm not the CEO of some Forbes 500. I'm not sitting there as a billionaire. You know, I'm not sitting there getting all sorts of cars and getting all sorts of relationships and getting social status and, all these different benefits. I'm not getting any of that. So what falah are we talking about? What's the definition of success here? You see, but then this manipulated version of success, in whatever aspect that is, again, the reason I have to keep highlighting that is because the majority of us usually associate success with money, because it's something that's tangible. It's something that you could actually showcase and say, look at my account, I've got one with like 50 zeros after it. So you want to have that. But there's different forms of success, similar to the idea of being poor and being rich. When you say the word rich, in Arabic that's the word al-ghani. Al-ghani in Arabic means that you are not in need of anything else. You don't need anything else. You are self-sufficient. That's al-ghani, right? And al-faqir is the one who's dependent, who needs, right? So نحن الفقراء إلى الله, الله الغني ونحن الفقراء. And the Jews, the Israelites in the Quran said the opposite. They said نحن الأغنياء والله الفقير. Subhanallah. They said something as disgusting as that, and that's captured in the Quran in one of the conversations that they had. Now, we look at this, coming back to the rich and poor, we look at it and we say, well, you know what? I don't have a big house, I don't have a fancy pants car, I don't have $1 million in my account, I'm poor. You're poor on a certain standard that you decided is the deciding standard of your status in this life. When in reality, the Prophet ﷺ taught us, انظروا إلى من هم دونكم. Look at those who are beneath you, not in a financial status, not in a I'm better than you status, those who have less than you. And that having doesn't necessarily translate to money. A person with no hands, a person with no deen, a person who doesn't have their health, a person who has 2 days left to live, and may Allah grant us all long, healthy, beautiful, Islamic-led lives. A person like that versus your current situation, who's rich? You have, alhamdulillah, you have 2 hands, that person has 1. Who's rich? See the difference here? Who is ghani? Who is more self-sufficient here? You or the person who has 1 hand, for example, or a person who has no hands, a person who has no legs, a person who can't talk, a person who is blind, a person who is deaf. وَإِن تَعِدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. And if you try to count the blessings that Allah has bestowed upon you and me, you can't count it. You can't. It's impossible. You cannot count. You can sit there and try for weeks and weeks and keep writing it down and writing it. You're not going to end. It's not possible. Because the benefits themselves that we can try to count, the physical ones that we see, like our sight and our hearing and everything else that we have, those are, you can count a few of those, sure, but then the things that they can do to further benefit your life are infinite. Therefore, you cannot count what you can do. It's not possible through the blessings that Allah has given you. Therefore, all these blessings are uncountable. And when we understand that that comes from Allah, and at the blink of an eye, and even less than that, He can take that away from us. يعني نسأل الله أن يعني نعوذ بالله من سخطه ومن غضبه. We seek refuge in Allah from His anger and from His removal of the blessings that He has bestowed upon us, and to grant us the ability first to be grateful for the blessings that He's given us, and second to use them for the right reason, for the right cause, to promote and support Islam, to support ourselves, to support our families, to support our friends, and to support society in the right way. We have to use those blessings, right? You've been given those, and so you can never misuse that. Otherwise, that's considered a oppression. And oppression comes from the word, again, we're doing a lot of tangents here. Oppression comes from the word dhulm. Dhulm, one of the definitions, is darkness, and one of the definitions is to misplace something. Like to put something in the wrong place. That's dhulm. And I don't know, you have a book on a shelf. If it's supposed to go on the first shelf and you put it on the third shelf, that's dhulm. You've misplaced something. So when you misuse, by using your body, for example, or whatever blessing Allah has given you in the wrong way, you are putting it in the wrong position. So you are committing dhulm. You are oppressing yourself. Too many tangents. We'll come back now to the story of Umar Ibn. Sorry about that, but the way the mind works. After he says that to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Alasna al-haq, are we not on the truth?" And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says yes. He says, all right. He takes the Muslims and he goes in front of the Kaaba and he starts leading the prayer. And he's like, which one of you clowns wants to challenge me? Talking to the Quraysh. It's like, what are you going to do? I'm Umar Ibn Khattab. I'm a Muslim. I believe in this message. And I'm going to lead the prayer in front of the Kaaba with your little idols sitting around, right in front of your faces. And let the man step up. That's the challenge he takes. Why? Because he's internalized this concept immediately. That I've got the most powerful on my side. Nothing you can do about it. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that's reported in Tirmidhi, if there was a prophet after me, it would have been Umar. This is the status of Umar radiallahu anhu. The Rasul ﷺ himself is saying that if a prophet were to come after me, it would have been Umar. That's how great this man is and how much of a Faruq he was, that he actually earned the title. The person who distinguishes truth from falsehood. Because what do prophets do? They come down with the light of Allah and they reveal that light to the people to take them out of the darkness and bring them into the light. يُخْرِجُهُمْ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ, as the Quran says. Takes them out of the darknesses, plural, to the light, singular. And you do that through the hidayah, through the guidance, which is the Quran, which is the Sunnah, which is the teachings of the prophets. And by doing so, you are separating darkness from light, falsehood from truth. And Umar ibn Khattab was a strong advocate for that. And so therefore the hadith makes perfect sense. That if a prophet were to come after me, it would have been Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. Umar ibn Khattab, when the hijrah was happening, remember the hijrah we talked about at Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's time, when the Muslims were all packing up in secret, taking whatever they could to go to Medina, because the torture in Mecca had reached beyond its limit. They were torturing everybody left and right. They were attacking them, they were persecuting them, they were robbing them, they were whipping them, they were killing them. So they had to all leave, but they were leaving in tiny little groups at night in secret. Umar ibn Khattab, that's not his character. He's not going to sit there and leave in secret. He stands up, broad daylight. He goes to the center. He goes to the city center, right, where everybody kind of hangs out. Stands up, says, look, I'm going to Medina. If anybody of you wants their mother to lose their child, then meet me at that valley behind the mountain. Everybody else is like, all right, shh, you gotta be really quiet, okay? Don't make any noise. Don't let Abu Lahab hear. Don't let Abu Jahl find out. Don't let this guy find out, because if they do, it's gonna be a mess. We just be very, very quiet. He's like, no. He's like, look, you wanna die? Let's go. I'm leaving, and if you try to stop me, you're pretty much on a suicide mission. I don't recommend it, but you're welcome to try. That's his approach. That's the boss that he is. That's the level that, which is very, very cool. Like everybody else is like going in secret. He's like, no, what am I afraid of? Come at me, which is really fascinating. SubhanAllah. Fast forward now, we get to they do the migration to Medina. So he leaves. All the Muslims leave. The Muhajirin, right? The immigrants who go to Medina. And we talked about the Muhajirin and the Ansar in Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's seerah. The Rasul later on catches up. Him and Abu Bakr, the companion, who was with him in the cave. They catch up, they set up in Medina. Now the year is 624 CE. And 624 CE is the Battle of Badr. The first official Muslim disbeliever kafir battle that takes place in Islamic history. Umar ibn Khattab is already in Medina. Abu Bakr is already in Medina. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf is already in Medina. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas is already in Medina. Abu Ubaid al-Jarrah, all these guys, these big names, they're already there in Medina. Who's left back there in Mecca? You have Abu Sufyan, you have Abu Jahl, you have Abu Lahab, you have all those bad guys, they're still there, they're going nuts, they're upset. But while they're in Medina, every now and then there's a few skirmishes that happen around. There's like a caravan that's traveling and gets attacked. Either the Quraysh attack the Muslims or the Muslims attack the Quraysh, because they're trying to recover all the losses, because when they left Mecca, when they were in Mecca, first of all, for all those years getting tortured, they were getting their stuff ransacked, they were getting their houses robbed, they were getting tortured, everything was being taken from them, their businesses were being shut down. So now it's like a matter of, I'm just trying to recover my losses. So whenever there was like a little caravan running around, they would try to raid it to take back their stuff. And so this happened on both sides. They were both attacking each other. Until one day, Abu Sufyan is traveling. Abu Sufyan is also one of the leaders of Quraysh. He's coming back from Damascus, or the Levant region, from Bilad al-Sham, and he's coming back to Mecca. Remember the journeys that we talked about, Rihlat al-Shita'i wal-Sayf, which is mentioned in the Quran, the journeys of the summer and the winter, because they used to go to Yemen, and then they used to go to Damascus, or that region, and they used to go back and forth from the trade route. So Abu Sufyan is coming back one day, and he's got a caravan, he's got some gold, he's got some goods, he just bought some stuff, he's ready to come back, and the Muslims get word of this. The Muslims, the Prophet ﷺ then decides, like, okay, let's do a raid. Abu Sufyan hears about this, that, oh, the Muslims are gathering a little force to come and raid your caravan. So he takes a different route. He sneaks off. But then he also sends word to Mecca. He says, listen guys, I'm under attack. There's a massive threat. All of our goods are at stake. This is very dangerous. Send reinforcements immediately. Quraysh mobilized their army, about 1,000 strong. They start marching towards Medina, which is kind of where Abu Sufyan was, in that zone, hiding out. So the reason I'm giving you this little backdrop is because the Battle of Badr wasn't necessarily a battle that was planned for. It was a little bit random. It's like, this wasn't like, all right guys, tomorrow 6 o'clock, I'll meet you at high noon or whatever, and it's going to go down. This was a little bit well, you guys tried to raid, now we're really angry, mobilize an army immediately, let's go attack. It was kind of like a reactive war, or reactive battle. So the Quraysh army approaches. The Prophet ﷺ had a shura with the companions. He had a consultation with all the companions. He gets together, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar ibn Khattab, and all sitting together. All right, listen, what's the plan? What do you guys want to do? And the Muslims are divided, and we'll see this again with Uhud. Should we fight? Should we stay? Should we hide? What should we do? Now, the Muslims, they're outnumbered, obviously. They are new to Medina. Quraysh are really angry. They're also very strong. They're very wealthy. And they're kind of panicking. They're like, well, what do we do? Should we fight? I mean, can we really take them on? How many do we have? And they start taking head count. And they're like, well, it's about 300 of us. Well, we got word that they're bringing in 1,000. So it's 3-1. That's a massacre. It's like, I don't know. Should we do it or not? Umar ibn Khattab was like, let's go. He's like, no, we're not going to. Let's go. They want to fight? We'll bring the fight to them. Let's go do it. So he was one of the strong supporters, along with Abu Bakr and a few of the other sahabah, of let's go take the fight. They want to fight? We'll go. We're not going to back down. We're not going to back down. Let's do it. Umar ibn Khattab, and I'm going to read what he says actually. He tells the Prophet, he says, O Messenger of Allah, we believe in you and we testify that what you have brought is the truth. We have given you our pledge to obey you. By Allah, if you command us to plunge into the sea, we shall do so. We shall not say, as the children of Israel said to Musa. Because you know that story, when Musa a.s. commands them to go into battle, they said to him, اذهب أنت وربك فقاتلا نحن إنا هاهنا قاعدون. You and your master go and fight. We're going to wait out here. He's like, we're not going to say what the Bani Israel said to Musa a.s. Rather, we will fight on your right and on your left, in front of you and behind you. Yeah, and we're going to go full out. We are with you till the death. Literally, in every stretch of the imagination of that word. We will do whatever it takes. There's no backpedaling. The Israelites, from that ayah, they said something extremely disrespectful. That's second, obviously kufr, but second, disrespectful to their prophet. Go fight you and your Lord. It's like Allah's commanding you to go do it. You're like, you and your Lord go do this. And when you're done, we'll come into that town and we'll take over. The level of arrogance that they had. Musa a.s. we need to do a live on Musa a.s. because it's insane what this man a.s. dealt with. The level of arrogance and ignorance and lack of intelligence, and I'm saying that very politely, of what these people caused, the level of distress that they caused to him. It's like, what is innakum qawmun tajhalun? At one point he says, he's like, indeed you are people of ignorance. What is wrong with you? And after you've been delivered from Fir'aun, after you've seen the sea split in front of you, you cross over and you find a random town and they're worshipping a chicken or a cow or whatever, the statue, and you're like, Ya Musa, make for us a Lord like they have. It's like, what is wrong with you? You guys have Allah. And Allah is the greatest example, who has delivered you from centuries of torture and slavery, who has split the sea right in front of you and saved you from the biggest tyrant in history. And now you cross the river. This hasn't been decades later. This is like a few months, a few weeks later. And you're like, oh, why can't we get a god like those guys? They have like some chicken that they worship and it looks pretty cool. And it's like, what is wrong? إِنَّكُمْ قَوْمٌ تَجْهَلُونَ. Indeed, you are people of ignorance. You don't understand anything. Subhanallah. So he's saying, we will not say what the people of Musa, the Bani Israel, said to you. We will fight with you. We will stand with you. And we will die if we have to. We have no issue with that. That was his opening statement to the Battle of Badr. And then again, remember how we talked about earlier, because of his size, his shape, his physique, that alone, I mean, he's coming into Badr. He's very tall. He stands out in the crowd, literally. Stands there with his swords and his armor and everything. I mean, you can imagine on Quraysh side, they're like, whew. It's like they got Umar on their side, man. This is a really difficult war. Like, imagine a little Qurayshi guy who's going up with his little sword, his little toy gun, and he's got Umar ibn Khattab in front of him. And it's like, just roll over and pretend to die. It's okay. Just roll over. We'll say you did a really good fight. Just go home. It's okay. That's kind of the psychological warfare that they had to deal with. It's a big guy. After that victory, and we all know obviously what happened in Badr, the Muslims took 70 of the Quraysh as captive, and 70 were killed, and then the rest ran away. Of those who were held captive, there were some bigwigs, some famous names from the Quraysh. Umar ibn Khattab, he suggests killing them. He says these guys were evil, they tortured us, they're not Muslim, they're not willing to accept, let's just get rid of them. Rasul says no. He says we will take them as prisoners of war, and we will treat them kindly and with mercy and with respect, feed them, clothe them, take care of them, and they got the best treatment. Some of them became Muslim. Umar ibn Khattab hesitates, but then he's like, just, why don't we kill them? They're really, really bad guys. Because again, you have to understand his character. I have zero tolerance. I'm looking at you, you're a bad guy. You've been given a chance, you're still a bad guy. You're in captivity, and you're still a bad guy. Why are we doing this dance? Let's just end it right now. So he tells Rasul, he's like, look, give me my relative, because his uncle was there. His uncle was also held captive. He's like, give me my relatives. I will strike them. Give Ali, radiallahu anhu, his relatives. He will strike them. Give Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu, his relatives. And everybody take care of their people. Why don't we just do it that way? But Rasul rejects. He says no. He says, because إِنَّهُ رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. He is a mercy to the world. He's a mercy to mankind. Exactly. He's showing his mercy to others. Indeed. Umar ibn Khattab accepts, obviously. He says, fine, as you wish. Then the verse gets revealed in Surah Al-Anfal. Remember I told you before, Surah Al-Anfal, a lot of it, the first chunk of it, talks about the Battle of Badr. The pre, the during, and the post. Like when you're done with the battle, all right, let's go over the case file. And they start, okay, so this is what happened, I see. So why did we do this? And then how could we have done it differently? Because you got to study, you got to like watch the tapes. And they do this like with athletes, right? If you want to go into a football match or a I don't know, a swimming tournament, whatever sort of sport it is, you watch the tapes of the previous matches of your opponent, right? How did they act? What did they do? How did they, manage to get that goal? How did they manage to win? What is their strategy? You start to watch the tapes, and same thing happens in the Quran. It gets captured with certain events. Like here's the Battle of Badr. Here's what happened pre. Here's what's happened during, and then here's the post, the aftermath of the war. And so now you look at this and you can read through these case files and try to understand. It's like, okay, so that's what they did. And had they done this differently, it would have resulted in X, Y, and Z. And you can start to study so you can better prepare yourself for the next battle, whatever that is, right? And so after Badr, it was Uhud. And we'll cover that, inshallah. So the verse gets revealed, it says, and I'm going to read it in English. It's chapter 8, verse 67, Surah Al-Anfal. It is not for a prophet to have captives until he has thoroughly subdued the land. You desire the good of this world, but Allah desires the hereafter. So you were not given the okay to keep captives. That's a rough translation, okay? When this verse was revealed, Prophet ﷺ turns to Umar radiallahu anhu, and he says to him, he says, had the punishment of Allah descended, it would have affected all of us except you. Because Umar wasn't for keeping captives. It wasn't that he knew. Obviously the verse hadn't been revealed yet. The ruling hadn't been revealed yet. But that was just what he wanted to do. And so the Rasul is saying after the verse had been revealed that had the punishment of Allah come down because we acted without command. Yeah, and we took captives, but Allah didn't allow us yet. He didn't give us the okay to do that. And so we kind of breached a rule here. And so he's like, if the punishment had come down, it would have affected all of us except you because you didn't want to do the whole captivity thing. I wanted to get to the caliphate of Umar, but we are about to touch on Uhud and it is already midnight. I think we'll have to pause here. I'm sorry, because it's midnight and it's a weekday for you guys, for all of us actually. I'm in the same time world as you guys, but I did want to wrap it up by 12. So I think we can stop here, inshallah, and we'll continue on the next slide with the Battle of Uhud, and then we'll talk about the Battle of the Trench, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, the conquest of Mecca, the passing of the Prophet ﷺ, and then maybe a life after that we'll get to the Caliphate of Umar Ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. And so on that I say Jazakumullah khair, thank you very much. The mic is open. If anybody would like to come up, you're more than welcome to. If you have any questions that I hope I can try to answer, you're more than welcome to post them. If there was any comments that I missed, please repost. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. If anybody wants to come up, you're welcome to. If you don't want to, we will wrap it up and then we'll pick up in the next live, inshallah.